first artificial reef. That's really where the party starts, is over there. So a few tips and tricks. Someone sees something on the port side? We see a giant dory fish. Oh my gosh, you guys, port side. You guys in the back will have to look forward towards me. There is a giant trevally. You can see him lurking and hiding in the distance. That is a big, big boy.
Hey, look, we could have caught that.
So that's a jackfish, or a giant trevally. Those fish are like shark hunters. That's what we call them, because they're such bullies. They are very territorial. So right now he's keeping us submarine. Our Captain Joey is just getting us lined up. These fish that are coming up to you guys in the forward section of the submarine, these are called eye-striped tangs. Just like Dory. Dory is a tang, a blue tang. Oh, there goes a giant trevally on the starboard side. These are my favorite kinds of trevally. The Poliopono, you guys on the right side are staring facing directly towards Waikiki Beach. So the Polioponos are great. There goes a giant sea cucumber. Some more of these big trevallies. A big school of giant trevallies coming at you guys. Yeah, so this Poliopono, or the Ridge of Life, it's all ancient lava flow, and it stretches all the way past Waikiki Beach, past to the Ko'olau mountain range. So it's a really great name. Poliopono. Actually, this Poliopono is a really good example of what our artificial reefs have accomplished. So because maybe like 30 years ago, this mountain was just overrun with thick algae. Now you guys can see all these corals growing on it. It's like a fish city, right? But yeah, 30 years ago, all that algae choked out the coral, so there was nothing there. It was barren, desolate, no fish at all. But because we installed these Japanese reefs, it brought over all of these fish, and the fish are the things that cleaned it up for us. They came over to this mountainside and they cleaned it up. They ate all the algae. It was like a little buffet for them. And they made it a safe, habitable spot for the corals to lock onto. So you guys that grows in Japan grow on these structures. This is what the seaweed comes from. These little spun fiberglass structures. There goes a bunch of those giant trevallies just hiding inside of that the top of that structure. It's so cool. So they're getting old enough. You can kind of see it. They're getting old enough where the males of the giant trevally are learning how to change their color. They'll change their coloration to this silver. All the way to this like deep black, kind of like a tribal black, and they use that for hiding in the shadows. Only the males can do it.
Hey, don't do that.
So all of these structures that we put down here, it's all just trying to mimic a natural reef. We only put them here so that we would hope and pray that the corals would begin to grow on them. Because without the corals, there really wouldn't be too much fish here. Common misconception, people think that coral is just a plant or a mineral, like just a rock. But coral is a living animal. It's made of like thousands of millions of microorganisms that come together. They have mouths, they need to eat in order to grow and reproduce. And Hawaiians, back in the day, Hawaiians, we have what we call our kumulipo. The kumulipo is the chant of life, and it talks about the cosmology or the creation here on these islands. And so the kumulipo opens up talking about the upukokoa, and the upukokoa is coral. So our Hawaiian ancestors believe that the very first spark of life started here on the ocean floor. So what do we use when we use our kumulipo? It's just to tell us where we came from. And where we came from should lead us to where we should be going. So it lets us know that you shouldn't take advantage of the things that brought you life, that make this island beautiful. You have to take care of it all. This kind of larger, grumpy looking fish with the big eyes, the large-eyed emperor, we call it moo. But the moo is a really ono fish. Do you guys like raw fish? Oh, that's the one. I'm hungry. I didn't have lunch, so that's why I'm pointing out all the fish I like to eat.
Hey.
You have your own window right here. Please look out it. Oh, that's a ship. Yeah, you guys, the visibility is so good today. You can actually see our second ship off in the distance. Snappers hanging under the canopy of this boat. A lot of giant trevallies out here. They're using the shelter, all of this stuff to hide in. Holy moly. Giant trevallies everywhere today. There goes a very large blue, yellow striped tang. That dory fish we saw earlier. She's a fatty. Yeah, so just like the airplanes, this did not go down in battle. If it did go down in battle, it'd be toppled over from one side to the other because that air has to escape somewhere, right? But we cut in.
How did they purposely sink these?
Oh, that's a really. So someone just asked, how did you guys purposefully sink it? So to scuttle a ship, you guys saw all those big holes, right? Those rectangular holes. That's really what it takes. You have to cut out those giant holes to allow water to sink in, and then barge cranes, a lot of crew. But actually, when it went down, you guys might have seen some like cables throughout the dive site. As it was going down, she started to take on water so fast. Like I said, she's one of the largest scuttled ships in the Pacific. So we weren't sure, we didn't know how quickly she'd sink down. And she went down fast. And she started pulling the barges down with her. So the captains were like, you guys, we gotta call it. And they cut the cables. So those cables are kind of strewn throughout the dive site. We decided it's better to just leave them because as we move them up, you can't really control a cable, right? So it just starts whacking and brushing against all of that coral. So these microorganisms that have been living for thousands of years just die in an instant. So you want to avoid that. You guys, starboard side, we got a school of Heller barracuda. You guys, on the right side of the submarine, there goes a school. You won't even be able to see urchin. We call them vana. Vana.
What the heck is
Vana's a delicacy here. So if you guys are...
what's this guy?
You guys on the port side, are we pointing at the boat or the fish? The fish, that's a spotted puffer fish. He's got places to go and people to see. He's on his way. I'm a busy guy. But yeah, so the vana, the sea urchin, it's a delicacy. So if you guys are new here on the islands, I dare you to broaden your taste buds. We eat it raw. The sea urchin. Yeah, we eat it raw. We crack it open. We break the spines and crack it open.